own family, my former father-in-law got in that buying up housing and becoming a landlord and all that. It's a great business. People have made vast fortunes, become fabulously wealthy off this. I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Vegas I thought about keeping and renting. I'm glad I didn't. But, I look back and think, God, if I had that, I'd be well off right now probably. I could just keep raising my rent. I mean, I would be getting $1,500 a month, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Vegas, centrally located. Yeah, you could get a lot of rent for it. And I could be well off now. But you know what? I don't want to be that person. I want to be ready to stand before my God with clean hands and say this bloodshed of the homeless dying out in the cold is not on me, because what causes the homelessness? Unaffordable housing. This is horrible. This is the wound on the collective body of humanity is hemorrhaging. And this is where the evidence is. It's in people actually dying out in the cold. And it's wrong. And we've got to confront it. We've got to be honest with ourselves, ruthlessly honest, and say, God, help me. Okay, I don't want to be a crap fascist. I don't want to be a crony capitalist. I don't want to be a communist. Okay, I want to help expose this evil. And even if I have been one, I'm done. I'm jumping ship, man. I want to inherit a better world. I want to leave a better world for my children, your children. Okay, I don't want them to just, figure they're going to inherit my vast resources as a crony capitalist and carry this torch into infinity or whatever. I don't care about, people dying out in the cold, the fact that they're turning our country into a third world nation. I can't worry about this. This is social Darwinianism. This is dog eat dog, survival of the fittest, a rat race. I got to get real. I got to get sober-minded, pragmatic, and practical and just make a lot of money. That's the answer. That's the solution. That's your way out of fear, right? But what did Victor Hugo say? I mean, adversity makes men, So what do you got? If your kids are just, I know I'm going to inherit. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Yeah, my dad's making me turn into a man. He put me in military school, or he's trying to make me, do this or that so I can be a man. But I know I'm going to be rich. So, I'm going to go along with this system as much as I need to. I'm going to object where, it suits my fancy. Well, my personal taxes are involved. I'm not going to acknowledge the fact that, me raising somebody else's cost of living is me becoming the tax collector. That's what it is. So I don't care if the burden is coming from a private entity or a government entity. If the effect is the same, it's evil. It's bad. It's crony capitalism. It's communism. It's fascism. It's all the same thing. So, let's understand the issue and then confront the causers of it. Confront the money printing class, this Federal Reservist. We've got to demand justice. I'm not that we're going to get it, but that doesn't mean we can't demand it as forcefully as we can without violence. We've got to make ourselves understood and clear about this and say we get it. We know that you're causing our problems and we want an end to it. We want some progress here. We want our currency to start increasing in worth. We want this ship to turn around. We want the tide to turn. Okay? We want God's will to be established on earth. So let's all try to be as honest as we can, okay? And then once we are honest and we admit that the fruits of tyranny are basically ignorance and confusion and division and destruction and death, okay? And that's it. That's all the tyranny has to offer us. And if you're on the side of crony capitalism or communism or fascism and one of these special interest groups that are colluding in the establishment, the status quo as it is right now, then you're on the highway to hell, okay? And you don't have good to look forward to. You've got to answer to an angry God. And like it's written, it's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. And that's what he is, rightfully so, because we've squandered the grace that he has given us. And we've got to be honest about that. We've got to admit it. And then we've got to confront it. And we've got to spread that truth. We've got to go out and we've got to preach the good news. What is wisdom? To help people distinguish the difference between great learning and great knowledge and wisdom and understanding as defined by divine standards. That God doesn't hide his personality or character. In order for us to understand him and to be his friend, we've got to understand what he's like. And then go out there and reflect that to the world. And don't look at the peripheral issues you've got in your life, all this problem, that problem. That's why I'm not happy. No, you're not happy because you see humanity going down the wrong road. And you see that we're getting pushed around by bullies, mean people, tyrants. And you don't like it. You might be one of the strong ones, but you don't want to be a part of it, so you're still a misfit. You don't want to be a part of it. You don't want to profit off crony capitalism. You don't want to be counted with the haves. I'd rather be one of the have-nots. Just so I'm anti-establishment, man. I can't go along with the devil and his plans. This trickery, this nonsense. It can't end well. Figure it out. It's getting worse and worse, and people are dying. It doesn't get worse than that. They are dying. They're dying from the crime. They're dying from the war. They're dying from the abortion. They're dying from the debt, the suicides, the misery that's being created, and the ignorance that just grows, and people prescribing to it. This ignorance is bliss philosophy that's been shoved down our throats. Oh, just look after yourself. Social Darwinianism, man. Look after yourself. Be practical. Be pragmatic. Have some common sense. Look after number one. That's it, man. Don't worry about others. You don't have time for that, man. You stick your nose to the grindstone. You get a good education as defined by the world, and you go out and you get a good job, a career. You make a lot of money. You pay those exorbitant rents and mortgages because you're mortally afraid of being homeless and dying out in the streets under the bridge. And this is the reality. Because the social welfare system, even though the government caused the problems, they're half-assed. They said, well, we can't house everybody. I mean, we got Section 8, but we require more funding. The landlord keeps raising his rent. So as we get more and more people homeless and needy, which is inevitable, because as people get weak and old, they can't afford those rents and mortgages anymore. Of course, they rely on social welfare. Of course they do. And who's going to pay it? Well, your taxes are going to have to go up, right? Something's got to give here. Do you understand? And you want to make sure that you at least are on the right side of history, on the right side of this battle. Okay, this is about good and bad, good and evil, humanity versus inhumanity. Okay, that's what it's all about. And we've all got to get very serious, very sober-minded about this and understand this wrath and fury of God is a beautiful thing that's coming down. But it's going to involve a lot of destruction of the pottery. And that's all these vessels are. These bodies are pottery. God knows where to put the soul and the spirit, the heart, the mind of the evil people. It's got to be separated from the righteous. That's what's fair. He can't let this thing just get worse and worse in perpetuity for the righteous, the decent, and his children, his friends. He can't do that. He's got to put his foot down at some point. You've got to intervene. And that's what's going on here, is that we need relief. And God is pushing for it. It's happening. Okay, who's going to rule this earth ultimately is good. It is the righteous and decent out there. And how it's going to be is going to be defined by God alone and through his workers, through his friends out there. They're saying it is going to be equal. It is. We are all going to understand this is God's earth. We are God's children, and we all have a right to share in the inherent wealth of this planet. So you're born rich. That's your new paradigm. That's your new reality. We all need to get used to it on an individual basis and to spread that truth collectively throughout the world, like putting yeast in the dough. Okay, it's got to mix throughout it. That's what's happening here. And those that don't want to be in that kind of a world won't be there. Okay, God's not going to shove nothing down your throat, but you need to understand what's coming down the pike. And that's what's coming. So we need to prepare ourselves for that and help others to be prepared. That's being a friend of God. That's winning treasures for him, because the individual is his treasure. Winning friends is his treasure. Those are souls. That's what it's all about. That are devoted to him only, loyal to him only. I just want to shout out to Jesse James. He was on the Alex Jones show recently. And, I've watched his shows in the past, going back as far as like 2000, about 2003, I guess. I remember seeing his show, and, I didn't think that much of the guy. But, hearing him on the show and talking about what he was doing for the homeless down there in Long Beach, I really took a liking to this guy. I really admire him, and got good vibes. I really like the dude. Right on. Good for you, Jesse James. You're one of these righteous cats I talk about. As far as I'm concerned, what I know about you, man, you're a good dude. Oh, we got fake news out there talking about Pizzagate. You know, the mainstream media has fake news nowadays. And all these code words the FBI has said, you know, they use these terms, you know, pizza for little girls and hot dogs for little boys. And they've been using all these terms. And we got this pedophile island. There's so many, you know, like the Podesta that was, you know, the head of the Democratic campaign. He's visiting this, what they call pedophile island. And they say, you know, oh, InfoWars is fake news, when really these people are the fake news outlets. By omission, they are. You know, not by, you know, just not explaining to people 9/11 and all the other stuff, the root of our problem. They don't talk about the Federal Reserve. They don't talk about how JFK was, get rid of them. So that's deceit. When you omit very important stuff, very intriguing, interesting facts that can educate the public, and you call yourself the mainstream media, you're the fake news. You sicken me. And you're helping to perpetuate the misery in society. You're working for the tyrants unless you're working for humanity at large. Not some of humanity, all humanity. So you're the real fake news. We got this horrific incident at this warehouse, this artist recluse warehouse in Oakland, California, just down the road from where I am. 36 people died in this inferno. And all these people were living in these squatter-like conditions, poverty. This is all they could afford. Money. Again, money is involved in this thing. And even the fire department, while it's their job to check to make sure these places are fire safe, because likely it was an electrical type thing. Who knows at this point? But, you know, these buildings weren't fire safe. They knew it. And they allowed the place to stay open because the housing is at such a deficit in the Bay Area. It's not that there's a shortage of housing. It's just that people can't afford it. So they're doing whatever they can. They're scrambling to survive. So this is money related. This is what tyranny is bringing us. But how many people realize that? And here's another example. We just had a 20-year-old woman was run over and killed by a 24-year-old man. Both lives ruined, the lives of the people, you know, the family and all this. What is this about? You say, oh, well, you know, drunk driver, you know, that. What does that have to do with money? Okay, escapism. Okay, why are people doing these foolish things? Okay, because it doesn't make any sense that this would happen. And also the highway safety. We could dramatically improve highway safety, and people will say, oh, well, there's money involved. That's it. That's what I'm saying. We could illuminate our streets at night just like the daylight, free of charge, with solar cells, solar collectors during the day, and illuminate crosswalks all night. Not just crosswalks, all the streets. Okay, we'd be much safer, much fewer accidents out there. We could have dividers on any of these two-way roads, out country roads, dividers on every one of them. Forget cost. It's about saving lives. It's worth $1 billion or more. How many billions to save one life? That's my answer to anybody out there that says it's about money, okay? No, we're all talking about how we got to create jobs and all this. Well, there you go, right there. You know, somehow Trump and what he's saying hasn't sunk in. If he really is for real and does half the stuff he's talking about, this really is a precursor. He's acting as a precursor to what is to come, and great things are to come. Okay, if he isn't assassinated. And still, I can't help but feel somehow Obama's going to stay in there, that all the stuff we're seeing right now is biblical. This whole significance of the number 44, if you read in the book of Revelations, read about this. Read it in the book of Daniel. Read the, short books, but they're very intriguing about these last day events. But, things are getting very, very, very interesting, very intriguing, and a bit foreboding, if I might say, a bit ominous. And remember, the cost of simply living is an onerous tax upon the poor. And one last thing, thanks, New World Order, for this misery, this vast pool of misery that you've brought upon humanity. This chain reaction misery that you've caused.